It is 6 p.m. It's Monday, December 11th, 2023. We're on the second floor of City Hall for the Common Council meeting. The agenda's been posted. Media's been posted, notified. Clerk, please take the roll call.
David Holt. Stephen Jopek.
Here.
Eileen Daniel.
Here.
Carrie Mikulowski.
Here.
Gerald Anderson.
Here.
Thomas Barnett.
Here.
Tom Kelly.
Here.
Leanne Felton.
Here.
Chris Hannes.
Here. We do have quorum. Please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving on to number 4, which is public comment. I have Tom Giroux.
Oh, it seems odd that it has to be read. Have a couple of comments regarding the radar speed signs. I am in favor of that. Even if a percentage of people slow down for those, it'll get the people coming into town slowing down even more. So it only takes a small percentage to follow the speed limit to get people in line with that. I'm also in favor of, I was on the Bicycle Pedestrian Council, and I'd like to see us meet once in a while. Mr. Mayor, it'd be nice. But I would also be in favor of the flashing lights for the school crossings. And then I see that we're going to begin the process of planning for utility work on Messer Street, and I'm going to reach out to Mark Barden to see how we can plan for trees in the process rather than after the process. And then lastly, item M on your agenda, I would like to see some progress on the Reich Street, and you all got an email from me. I won't repeat what's in it, so you have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have Virginia Roberts.
I can't remember if red or blue is on. I guess red is on. So tomorrow, the Rhinelander District Library, Friends of the Library, will have their annual holiday tea from 11:30 to about 2:30 in the afternoon. Tea, cookies, musical entertainment, and a gingerbread house judging going on currently. So if y'all would mind stopping in, having some cookies, maybe some tea, and join us for that. We'd all love to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Was there anyone else for public comment? Did any of the elders have public comment? Not seeing. Moving on. Number 5, mayor's comments. I have none at this time. Number 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 do not apply for this meeting. Moving on to number 11, which is introduction of new business. 11A, discuss and/or action approving Common Council meeting minutes from November 27th.
Daniel, make a motion to approve the Common Council meeting minutes from November 27th, 2023.
Jopek second.
Mr. Anderson, I don't know if were you just seconding or just, okay. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those who oppose, abstain.
Abstain.
By Mikulowski, minutes are approved. Moving on to 11B, discuss and/or action approving bills and claims for $6.8 million.
Daniel, make a motion to approve the bills and claims in the amount of $6,884,316.17.
Jopek second.
Okay, motion second. Any discussion? Not seeing. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Thomas Barnett.
Aye.
Leanne Felton.
Aye.
Carrie Mikulowski.
Aye.
Tom Kelly.
Aye.
Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
David Holt. Eileen Daniel. Stephen
Aye.
Jopek.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Moving on to 11C, discuss and/or action proposed resolution 2023-153 regarding the public record fee schedule. I don't know if there's anything you want to speak to on this, Austin?
Nope, I can just, this is the altering the fee schedule regarding what we've done at the last meeting for open records requests. The figures that you see here are standard figures that most municipalities use and are taken directly from the Department of Justice.
Barnett, I make a motion to approve the proposed resolution 2023-153, approving the proposed public records requested schedule of fees.
Daniel second.
Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Anderson?
I just, it certainly looks like pretty minimal charges, and I hope they, somewhere near covering our costs on some of this stuff. But the one that I guess I wondered about was paper to digital, no fee. But why is that? Doesn't that take some work to scan things into a digital form?
And it can be argued that, yes, it does. But like I said, this is taken directly from the Department of Justice and how other municipalities do it. So I can't speak to exactly why they don't have that there. I would say that it is beneficial for us to get those records made digitally, and it's something that we're already working on in our own time. So this may just kind of speed up that process along to get that stuff digitized and then saved into the city's files.
I think the other thing you want to realize, Gerald, is sometimes it costs more to collect the fee than it does for the fee, and because you got to go through the hassle of sending a letter out saying it costs this much, and then you got to take the money in, and that takes time. This is one of those ones I think that gets really close to that.
Yeah, I assume that's why there's no, we're not going to charge it if it's under $5. That's the reason for that too, I'm sure.
True. Any other discussion? Not seeing. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Carrie Mikulowski,
Aye.
David Holt, Eileen Daniel,
Aye.
Stephen Jopek,
Aye.
Gerald Anderson,
Aye.
Thomas Barnett,
Aye.
Leanne Felton,
Aye.
Tom Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to 11D, discuss and/or action for proposed resolution 2023-154. This is buying 6 radar speed signs not to exceed $18,550.
Barnett, I make a motion to approve the proposed resolution 2023-154, approving the proposal from Ellen City for the purchase of 6 radar speed signs for a cost not to exceed $18,550.
Daniel second.
Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Barnett?
I think that having these speed signs, as Mr. Giroux pointed out, is going to significantly improve the speeding issues that we have in the city. Our police department does a fantastic job, but we can only patrol with as many patrol officers that we have. So having these speed signs is an added bonus to help them as well as the people in the city. So I think this is a great opportunity to improve the situation with the speeding. I would like to know, though, can we clarify where the money's coming from?
Chief, I think you were going to stand up and sat back down and now back up.
Patrick came to me summertime and said that he wanted to set aside, I think, $25,000 for this project out of borrowing. So I did the research to get 3 quotes and then present those to Patrick, which one I thought was the best option for the size, the numbering. We do have a speed board that we use, but that thing's over 20 years old and it's in the shop more than it's on the street. We have been effective by using that. The locations that we've selected have been asked department input from the officers, and basically it's from our highest number of speed complaints, school areas, and then also Woodland Drive, because there's no sidewalks there, and traffic to and from school. So those are the reasons why we selected the locations that we selected.
Mr. Anderson?
Are these permanent locations, or should they be moved if we decide some other place needs it more?
Well, they're going to be on a pole, so they'll be permanent. But yeah, we could take the pole out and put it somewhere else if we seem deemed fit. But they're not made to be mobile, like just walk up and take it off and put it somewhere else.
Okay, not seeing any other discussion. We had a motion second. Clerk, please call the roll call.
Gerald Anderson,
Aye.
Stephen Jopek,
Aye.
Eileen Daniel,
Aye.
Carrie Mikulowski,
Aye.
Tom Kelly,
Aye.
Thomas Barnett,
Aye.
David Holt, Leanne Felton.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Moving on to 11E, discuss and/or action proposed resolution 2023-155. I refer to our fire chief, I believe, on this one first.
And this is for E-Plan exam.
Correct.
E-Plan exam is another process for us. Right now, any plan reviews that we get, commercial plan reviews, have to go to the state. It takes the state months to get through these plan reviews. E-Plan exam is a delegated authority for us to go to. Right now, we don't realize any income or any revenues or anything from the state when we get plan reviews. This will allow us to get 5% revenues from any kind of commercial plan review. So it's another source of revenue for us, and it's a much quicker turnaround. It's a 15-day turnaround from a plan review. So this is kind of one of those, a no-brainer for us. They're holding one more slot open for us for this year for our city. We'll be I think the 24th city that they've taken on, and this will be it for them unless they expand their business.
Barnett, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2023-155, approving a professional service contract with E-Plan exam for commercial plan review services.
Michalowski, second.
Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Anderson?
Well, I had a question about page 34 at the bottom where it refers to the plans examiner and community development department. That's the only place in the document they use that term, and I just wondered what that means. Is that some part of the city or something else?
Rhinelander does not have a community development. It would be encompassed in the plan commission, or excuse me, the planning office, and also it would be the advisors we've used for economic development. So that kind of makes up our. At a city this size, really can't have a community development department. Or it just is not cost effective. But the state thinks they exist, so they put the language in there. It's where you don't play with their words if you want their grant.
Mr. Barnett?
Yeah, I had a long phone call with Patrick today to go over the packet. We do that every Monday, and he explained all this appropriately to me. And I think if we're going to be earning money as opposed to shoveling money out, you're right, it is a no-brainer. So I'm all for this.
Are you anticipating the fees to increase for the developer?
The fees do increase a little bit compared to what for the state, but you're pretty much paying for that convenience, that quick turnaround for the plan reviews to come back much faster. And it's marginal, that fee increase.
Mr. Jopek?
Would you say that fee increase, the developers appreciate that timeline turnaround to where that fee increase might, like you said, be marginal? They might not even care because of that?
Yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely. Because time is money when they're building, right, in any construction project. So if they can get that plan review turned around faster and start building faster on that property, then they're not paying that money to hold on to that property longer in interest or whatever it may be. So it'll actually even out. They'll probably come out ahead on that.
Thanks.
Okay, not seeing any other discussion. There was a motion second. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Leanne Felton.
Aye.
Tom Kelly.
Aye.
Eileen Danielle.
Aye.
Thomas Barnett. Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
Carrie Michalowski.
Aye.
Stephen Jopek. David Holt.
Motion is approved. Moving on to 11F, discuss and/or action proposed resolution 2023-156 regarding about Rhinelander commercial waste hauler. Refer to Kurt.
So you guys approved, I believe it was stormwater and sewer rates last council for 6 years out through 2029. Well, that study that Ellers did and recommended didn't include our separate hauler and industrial fees that Jody sends to Wendy out of the plant for billing purposes. A lot of these rates have not, or fees haven't been touched since 2014. We saw a couple small 25-cent increases in 2021 on a few things. Just like everything else, it's costing us more money to treat the waste at the plant. We're seeing maintenance costs and new equipment go up 20% across the board everywhere. So we're looking at you guys to approve these increases. We're going to follow the same percentage that Ellers recommended for that rate study all the way through 2029.
Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, so the two-part question, the right-hand part of the page, the 4 columns on the right, I take it that those are add-ons
Yeah.
to what you get out of the first columns.
Yep. So on the right-hand side of, you're looking at the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
On the right-hand side, that's our industrial just charge fees. So like red arrow. They go off the volume cost, which was also approved. The volume cost was approved in the wastewater for Ellers that you guys approved before. So that's going up from $9 to $10.35 per thousand. The rest of it, our BOD is biological oxygen demand, total suspended solids, and phosphorus. They're more of a high-strength waste coming into the plant. They're required as an industrial user to send samples to a certified lab, which goes to Crandon. Jody at the plant gets all those results. Based on those results, you can see down at the bottom, so the volume costs include what we accept for BOD, total suspended solids, and phosphorus. Anything over that limit, they get this special charge added onto it.
And the other part I noticed that the most of the columns are increased 41% over the next 6 years. But leachate waste, I guess the third column is increased 80%, and one of the others is decreased, or not decreased, but less than 40%. And I just wondered if you could speak to why there's different amounts.
Could you explain that a little better to me?
Okay, column 3.
Okay.
If you go from $40 to $73.69, that's a
Yep. So leachate.
84% increase.
Yep. So leachate, we bumped that up to 60 because that hasn't been touched. It's been at well, historically, back in 2001 at the old plant, it was $64. Then they went to $88 a thousand, 93, and then they dropped it in 2004 to 46, and then it was at 47 or 48 all the way to 2009 or 2010. In 2014, it got dropped to $40. Looking up these historical fees across the board, they were all dropped back in 2014. Why, I don't know. But leachate is one that we went above the 15% because that's been historically low for a long time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Barnett, I make a motion to approve the proposed adjustments to the City of Rhinelander's commercial hauler industrial discharge schedule of fees for 2024 to 2029.
Daniel, second.
Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Eileen Daniel,
Aye.
David Holt, Tom Kelly, Stephen Jopek,
Aye.
Thomas Barnett,
Aye.
Gerald Anderson,
Aye.
Leanne Felton, Carrie Mikulowski.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Moving on to 11G, discuss and/or action proposed resolution 2023-157. So this is regarding the Roadway Inn Hotel conversion project that we brought to Planning Commission several months ago. We have a developer who came forward who's looking to convert that into low-income housing. Part of that is he needed some financial help. We are working with Jim Rosenberg through Economic Development to secure a grant. Kind of sounds like we have, which is great news to get that project moving forward. So I turn over to Jim.
Here we go. I'll make it fast because it's a Packer night, right? We've worked with this one for quite some time, and I know I know it was exciting for Patrick Reagan and for me, but the developer is going to bring something very important here, which is some affordable housing. And it's not a tax credit project, but one where he's trying to watch his numbers and come up with some rents that are reasonable. So it's adding to the housing supply. It's unusual in that normally your attorney would say, and you have a copy of the contract, but it's a draft only, not an offer. Well, it's all but an offer, and let's just put it to you this way. Our people on Wednesday will be approving this and signing it, and so we would like for the mayor to be able to sign it on behalf of the city of Rhinelander. And if anything happens to it between now and then and he doesn't like the provisions, he's just not going to sign it. So it's not going to change, and we'd appreciate your support on this so that we could get this thing rolling.
True. Mr. Barnett?
So we don't know what the rent is going to be?
No, but this is just like any market-based thing. So he's gonna set the rents, but the numbers he said to us were like the $700-800 range, which is cheaper than a lot of things are. And the city doesn't really have any skin in the game other than sponsoring and supporting the grant support. So, you know, we really don't have leverage to say, well, you can only charge this much for rent, because that's not what's going on here. But I think I'm satisfied that he's committed to that, and he's certainly trying to count his pennies on it.
Yeah, my only concern is that we're going to go say that, you know, it's going to be $700 in rent, and then once it's all said and done, we're up to $1,000, $1,500 a month in rent, which is something we don't need in this town.
Right, and I don't think anybody would rent those places for that either. So he knows that he needs to be competitive. Okay. But you know, I guess I don't feel like WEDC or the city have enough on it to dictate to him any maximums, because he's really doing a market-based project.
Yeah, I think you've got to point out that the project, and I looked at all the specs and stuff before it went to the state, if he gets the $700-800 for those, he'll be doing fine. And he's going to have to get that much money to get his money out of it. And he's made adjustments in that according to what the state and we've required to make them legitimate housing for people with disabilities as well as people with lower income. So it serves a very good purpose, and it's in a location that should be a good project. So, but I would say that, remember, we are responsible for the money if he doesn't build it. Then under the contract we're signing, we're taking responsibility for the $125,000. So just keep that in mind. But we're not going to give him the money until he's building. I presume that's how you're going to manage it.
Right. If you look at the package with the contract, there's a draw request thing. And normally, and I didn't look at this one specifically, but normally they have like a maximum of 3 draw requests or whatever. So in order to do those draw requests, he's going to have to supply paid invoices for the work being done. So I think the city's chance of being on the hook are minimal. And I've not heard of it with WEDC grants in the past either. So I think we're okay.
Yeah, I just didn't want the council to think that there wasn't, if you read the contract, we are liable for the money if he would not go ahead and they had spent the money. So just keep that in mind. But I don't think you're going to have to worry about it.
Mr. Anderson?
I move approval of Resolution 2023-157, approving, authorizing, and directing the mayor to sign a grant agreement, essentially the same as the draft presented to us, with the WEDC for the mixed-use development project at 667 West Kemp Street, with the proviso that it be spelled Kemp rather than Kemper on page 2.
Daniel, second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Not seeing. Clerk, please take the roll call.
David Holt, Stephen Jopek,
Aye.
Eileen Daniel,
Aye.
Carrie Mikulowski,
Aye.
Gerald Anderson,
Aye.
Thomas Barnett,
Aye.
Tom Kelly. Leanne Felton.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to 11H, discuss and/or action proposed resolution 2023-158. I refer to Austin, our city clerk.
So this comes every 2 years. The common council has to approve the election workers that we have. So here's the list of our chief inspectors, our special voting deputies, as well as our election inspectors. So this is approving them for the term of 2024 and 2025, as well as giving me the provision that I can select and hire and train these new poll workers if someone does sign up within that term. But of course, those names are going to come to council before they're allowed to work those elections.
Daniel, I'll make a motion to approve the proposed resolution 2023-158, approving the appointment of election officials for the 2024-2025 term.
Burnett, second.
Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those who oppose?
Abstain.
Mr. Anderson abstains. Motion passes. Moving on to 11I, discuss and/or action proposed resolution 2023-159. This is regarding the St. Patrick's Day Parade. Since this one has not yet come to council, that's why it's coming for the first time. If approved, it would pretty much be an automatic approval unless they change substantially based on the policy change by the body.
Barnett, I make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-159, approving request from the St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee to waive all associated fees for the 2024 St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Felton, second.
Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing. All those in favor, please say
Aye.
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 Those who opposed? Abstain. Motion passes. Moving on to 11J, discuss and/or action proposed resolution 2023-160. This is for GMA Display Fireworks Show. This is the same company we used the last couple years. My understanding is they kept it on the same price as last year while adding 150 either larger shells or additional shells. So we recommended approval.
Bigger bang for our buck.
Yeah, bigger.
Daniel, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-160, approving, authorizing, and directing the mayor to sign an agreement with J&M Displays for a 4th of July fireworks display in the amount of $24,990.
Barnett, second.
And this is a further point. This was coming out of room tax fund, which we budgeted $30,000, so it's coming under budget too, which is a good thing. Mr. Anderson?
I noticed they had a bonus in there for signing up with them from year to year. Is there some point at which this kind of contract has to be bid competitively?
So from it going out to bid, I'm thinking based on it's a limited supply of companies, meaning they're the only ones in this area that bids on it.
Yeah, it's not a public works contract, so it does not have to go out to public bids. Now, you can ask for it to go out if you want to, but I will tell you, with the cities that I'm acquainted with, you should take this one and run.
It is a bond, so yeah. So any other discussion? Not seeing. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Thomas Barnett.
Aye.
Leanne Felton.
Aye.
Carrie McCloskey.
Aye.
Tom Kelly.
Aye.
Gerald Anderson.
Aye.
David Holt. Eileen Daniel.
Aye.
Stephen Jopek.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to 11K, discuss and/or action proposed resolution 2023-161. I will refer to our chief of police.
This is in a response, again, looking at pedestrian safety in our community, and we did unfortunately have a motor vehicle crash involving a pedestrian that was en route to school. Although these blinking signs wouldn't have helped at all because the driver was at no fault. The young child ran out into the roadway unsupervised by a parent and didn't stop and look. There's at least 3 witnesses that came forward to observe the child's behavior, so it was definitely on the driver, not on the child. But as we look at Patrick and then Justin at the Public Works Department, we went and looked at certain intersections, looked at what could we do better. We had a meeting with the school district about possibly sharing some cost and looking at certain key intersections on what we could do to make safety for those walking to school, still encouraging kids to walk to school just for the health reasons, but yet make it safe for them. So we're going to purchase those, and we have some areas identified as where we want to put those out.
Mr. Barnett?
For the record, Lloyd, can you clarify, during your statement, you said it was on the driver, not the child. I think you meant to flip that around?
Yeah, the cause of the crash was on the juvenile that ran into the roadway.
Okay, yeah. I think these will be a great asset to helping keep everybody safe. So I make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-161, approving the proposal from TAPCO for the purchase of blinking school crossing signs for $15,023.50.
Michalowski, second.
Mr. Anderson?
I noticed that in the resolution itself, the resolve clause, it says purchase 2 radar speed signs. I think that needs to be changed to school crossing signs. So I'd like to move to change that.
Is there a second?
Joe Pike, second.
Okay, so on,
We move to amend the resolution that was moved by Tom, so this you'd have to vote on the amendment first.
correct. So any discussion on the amendment? Not seeing. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone who opposes? Abstain? Amendment passes. Now going back to the whole issue the main issue. Any discussion on that? Not seeing. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I believe we have to have a roll call
Oh, it's a
vote
dollar
because it is a
amount.
dollar
Yeah.
amount.
Yeah, sorry, clerk, can you take the roll call?
Carrie Michalowski,
Aye.
David Holt, Eileen Daniel,
Aye.
Stephen Jopek,
Aye.
Gerald Anderson,
Aye.
Thomas Barnett,
Aye.
Leanne Felton,
Aye.
Tom Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to 11L, discuss and/or action proposed resolution 2023-162. I refer to Mark from Town and Country Engineering.
So this engineering contract is a preliminary engineering for the Messer area project. Council earlier this year approved us to start the survey. We completed the survey this year. This is for preliminary engineering. The purpose of getting it done this year is this is a potential 2025 project. As the resolution states, the city received $400,000 in grants through LRIP, which sunsets June 30th of 2027. At that time, you have to have the contract fully paid, everything in project constructed to get reimbursed that $400,000. As you see on these other big projects we have, Oneida is a similar type project. Those are always 2-year projects. So if this is a 2025 project, in 26 we'll be doing the final surface pavement and pavement marking, finish everything up. In general, the final pay request wouldn't be till September, October, somewhere like that. So for a 27 sunset, it would need to be a 25 project. So backing it up, this year we'd put the plans together, get applications in for rural development and safe drinking water in June, and then finalize the design and get a bid next year. So this base bid contract, it's rather lengthy. It's a 56-page contract. That's a rural development style contract. That's why it's so lengthy. The amendment is for the 67.5 for the preliminary engineering, and that includes the rural development application and preliminary engineering report and environmental report if needed.
Can you state the streets again that's in question?
Messer, Evergreen Court, Lakeshore, Rose. We have also added Pearl in there for street reconstruction, Fremont from Messer to Thayer, and Hodag Park from Messer to Thayer as well.
Do you have an estimated cost for the project?
Estimated with contingency and engineering is about $8 million.
So, Ms. Daniel?
To Tom's point earlier, Mr. Giroux, I would encourage you to include the replacement of trees that are removed before in this planning process. That's all I ask for.
I'll happily work with Tom and staff on that.
Perfect.
Michalowski, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-162, approving an agreement with Town and Country Engineering, Inc. for preliminary engineering services for the Messer Street Utility and Street Improvement Project for the cost of $67,500.
Daniel, second.
Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing. Clerk, please take the roll call.
Gerald Anderson,
Aye.
Stephen Jopek,
Aye.
Eileen Daniel,
Aye.
Carrie Michalowski,
Aye.
Tom Kelly,
Aye.
Thomas Barnett,
Aye.
David Holt, Leanne Felton.
Motion passes. Moving on to 11M, which is kind of a two-part thing. So first, we will discuss and/or take action on the Reich Street. I refer to our city attorney first.
Yeah, this is a project that you all started several years ago, and the problem was that the original notice didn't get properly sent out, so we have to have another public hearing. You've already tentatively voted to vacate that portion of Reek Street right away and take and transfer the parcel to the two adjoining property owners. But we'll have to revisit that, and I suggest we'll bring it up on the January 8th agenda if that's appropriate. At that time, you'll have to decide if you still want to vacate the roadway that really serves no purpose other than driving into the water, if you wish. DNR has no interest in it. The Parks Department has no interest in it. So it's a parcel of land that'll be owned by the city, and if you vacate the street, then technically it goes to the two property owners on either side of it. Right now, it's just a right-of-way that's not being taxed.
Mr. Barnett.
You said it goes into the water?
Yes, it goes right straight ahead into the, I don't know what that water body is called.
Wisconsin River.
Oh, it's the river?
Well, it's water.
So my question would be, do people utilize that to launch boats?
No.
No.
They don't?
No.
Okay.
And it would not be suitable for that.
Does the board have any other questions for Steve? Okay.
But I just,
Ms. Anderson?
yeah, I just wondered why it's taking so long to get back to it and why we didn't set it for a public hearing tonight.
I wasn't here when it was first dealt with, and when it was brought to my attention, I will admit that probably for a month I didn't. Then I sent the letter to the Department of the DNR, and Tom got a response from the DNR before I did, but I confirmed that the DNR said that so that I could say that I talked to the DNR so I could report to you. I could have had it ready for tonight's meeting, but quite frankly, it's not going anywhere. If we'd gotten it done this year, we could have put it on their tax bills for next year. So they should be very happy that we're waiting another year so it can't be on their tax bill because it won't be on theirs on January 1st. Now, I will tell you that there's a driveway located on it, and there's some other improvements by the property owners, so they've done a nice job keeping it up over the years.
Do you have an estimated timetable of when we could see the ownership change hands if the body was to approve it?
By at least the 1st of March.
So. Okay, so now going on to the second part, which is RH 34-2. This was a property that was condemned and leveled by the city, adjacent to an empty lot and a moonlighting bar. So we're just looking for an update on that property.
Yeah, that one, when we did the title report on that one, we discovered that the lady that gave us the quitclaim deed to the property had never terminated her husband's interest in the property. And so you've got a deceased person's interest in the property, which we are trying to work with the neighbor who wants to own the property, telling them that you can have this property, but you're going to have to clear the title on it. They've they say they always want it, but they don't want to take it with this defect in title. It's really not in the city's best interest to spend another couple $1,000s to acquire the title, because we're going to have to put it on the cost, which they're ultimately going to pay for anyway. So that we've been negotiating with them to do that. That's Silver, I can't remember the name right now, but that's been a long process.
Any questions or statements for Steve?
As long as we're talking about it, the third one is the Cranberry House, is that what it's called? Yeah, and that one, in case you've heard about that one, the time ran out on that one too, so that one is going to be a little more complicated, and I'm glad we're having an opportunity to discuss it, because what will happen is, because it's all full of personal property, under the statute, we're going to have to go to court and take the personal property and arrange for a sale, and we'll probably have a sale of the personal property while it's inside of the home. Now, the people that own the property, which is a gentleman from California, who, by the way, attempted to call me today, but when I tried to call him back, he didn't answer the phone, so he obviously knows we're still trying to get rid of it. But generally, he tells me in very colorful language that he doesn't really care, and to keep his sister out and some other things like that. But the bottom line is, eventually, that we're going to have to sell that property, and that property, I'm told, is worth a lot of money. So we're going to take this one very delicately. And we have several people that are interested in buying it. That's not a problem. So the city should come out whole on that property. They just can't get the person that owns it to cooperate.
Okay.
I don't have any more stories to tell.
With that, moving on. That would be 11N, discuss and/or action rental inspection program. First, turn over to Ms. Michalowski, since this was a future agenda item request. We're just bringing forward.
So basically, what this comes down to is being able to fix up a lot of our houses that are old and neglected, and having a system in place in order to do that. And I don't know, Brian, if you want to speak on regards to that more in depth, but there's other cities around the state that have these programs, and I just thought it might be a way for us to start cleaning up some of the older homes in our city and getting them back up to code, so that they are more livable. A lot of the houses we have in the city, in my opinion, after being through a bunch of them, is, to me, they're not safe. But the insides don't get inspected like the outsides do. And so this program would allow for inspecting the insides. So I'll turn it over to Brian.
So unfortunately, Patrick did more homework on this than I did, but he couldn't be here tonight. So the first page that Kurt Watinsky did, the old executive deputy executive director of the League of Municipalities, has a really good write-up back in, I think it was 2017, 2018. In 2015, Wisconsin kind of tried to go away from rental inspections as being discriminatory. They call them discriminatory in that. If you kind of read through that, you can see that there is opportunities to do it, but it's got to be like a blighted community. It's got to be, there's got to be multiple code complaints or violations, deteriorating property values, increases in single home conversions to rental units, stuff like that, to be able to do that. For us to institute a program like that for the city of Rhinelander, we would have to set up some kind of municipal court system for appeals. For tenants. Tenants hold the right not to allow us into these properties at any time as well, and then we would have to go in on some kind of a warrant or some kind of other type of issue, or a life safety issue. So currently how we work is we work on the tenant's complaint basis. So once we get those in, or if it's a life safety issue, then we'll try to enter the property, give a 24-hour notice or 48-hour notice, depending upon what the issue is in there. But we don't have the actual rental inspection unit, but we don't have a very sustainable appeals process for that either. So right now it goes through the county court system in our city attorney. So to set that up, it would be pretty costly. It'd probably be cost prohibitive for the city to do that. The revenues that we would gain from that would maybe pay for a part-time inspector to do that, but I don't think it would pay for, with benefits and everything, to stand up the municipal system, judgment system and everything. So it's not, we can never do it, but it's probably not, right now is probably not a good time for it, from my perspective.
Mr. Anderson?
We keep talking about wanting more and better affordable housing in this town, and certainly an important part of it is making sure it's livable housing, housing that people are not going to be harmed by living in. And I'll admit I read this thing kind of fast, but I kept getting more and more disgusted as I went along. Basically, everything that municipalities try to do to ensure better housing for people has been outlawed by the legislature, is what it sounds like. And so we've got a hard way to go on that, it seems, and it seems like the chief just confirmed that. Even when it talks about blight, we're not a big city that we have blighted areas. It seems to me our blight is randomly scattered around the city. So it doesn't sound like we can fit under that category. And the part about once they've passed an inspection, they can't be inspected again for 5 years. I think my house is in pretty good shape, but that doesn't mean something shouldn't happen next week or next month. Things do go bad, even if they're good at a certain point. So I would like to be able to do more, and I'd be looking for our attorney's suggestions about what is feasible under this law, but it's certainly discouraging going in.
Can I speak to that? So part of bringing that residential inspector in as part of the code enforcement inspector that we started earlier this year, moving Ryan Berghammer over into the commercial inspector, and then trying to make Dave Melvin that residential inspector, will help those two coincide. So we'll get into more of these residential units through permitting processes and stuff like that, so that we can see more of the inside of these houses. It's not anything nefarious, but it's a way for us to educate at least the public on what we're expecting to see, or what is a lack of basic facilities. That's really, we're kind of reactive on that stuff right now. We don't go out looking for that, but we get them on complaints basis. We can't be very as proactive as we'd like to be, because if we did that, we would have to have a code enforcement inspector that would be out there all day, every day, doing nothing but, and then somebody else would have to be writing the orders for them, because there's not enough time in the day. It's an old mill town. I mean, it's the hand that we're dealt, and it's going to take us a while to get to where we would like to see it, and we might never get there, but we're chipping away at it, and we are progressing and moving forward as fast as we can, as much as we can.
Ms. Michalowski?
Yeah, so the thing is that the what I'm seeing when I'm out in the community through my job doing home visits, we obviously know that we have a lack of housing or affordable housing, but even those who get approved for Section 8, they have to find a house that they can rent in order to get that supplement. And in order to get the supplement, they have to have an inspection done of the house. Well, a lot of the houses we have don't pass that inspection. And so it's this revolving issue of the houses we do have aren't passing inspection in order for folks to get subsidized housing. So unless we do something, I mean, there's not like developers knocking down our walls our doors trying to, build a bunch of new houses. We need to do something to get the housing we do have back up to code. So I guess what my ask on this is to get some numbers behind what's being said. I know you don't think that it's necessarily feasible right now, and that might be true, but let's get some tangible numbers so that we can look at that. What does it all require? What is the cost going to be, so that we have something tangible to look at? And that's all I asked that administration to do.
I have a weird question for you, Steve. What about if you instituted it as like a volunteer program where property owners could request it, based on, then they get like a BBB rating, or, kind of like with that, where it's more of a bragging right of rent for me, I have high quality of units.
Well, yeah, you can set up incentive programs where you can give incentives to the property owners to bring the houses up to code. And the incentive can be money, the incentive can be publicity, the incentive can be government Section 8 payments. You just got to find the landlords that want to play in that sandbox. And right now, you probably don't have a lot of landlords that want to play in that sandbox because they can just simply ignore the whole problem and collect a check every month, because the tenants aren't going to complain because they don't want to get kicked out. And they don't have any money to fix it up themselves, so they just quietly live in what they have because they think, the good Lord, they have a place to live, even if it is less than substandard. Listen, it's not a problem just for Rhinelander. It's a problem in the United States. The problem is here. It gets cold in the winter. And if you want to see worse, just go south, because it's worse there because it stays warmer year-round. It's a sociological problem that the biggest efforts that have been made that have been successful is where municipal governments have actually started housing projects with the kind of housing that people want to live in and then subsidize that. But today's marketplace, there just aren't the developers, and the cost of lumber and construction costs are just astronomical. So you probably won't, until lumber and housing costs come down, because to renovate these places is going to cost more than building new ones in most cases. I mean, that's what the contractors tell me. And again, they're making money. I mean, people are paying them. If you want to kick the people out, they'll say fine, because they don't care. It costs way too much for them to improve it. Yeah. So I'm telling you, yes, you could do that, but you got to have a pile of money to do that, and it's got to be a lot of money, because it's got to be more than the landlord makes by ignoring the problem, and that's the tough thing, because $100 here and there isn't going to do it. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. I mean, I'm not in the state legislature or the federal government, so.
Austin, you might know because it kind of starts with you, but then it gets outsourced. The city of Rhinelander has a program where if people are looking to have, grant assistance or loan assistance with updating their property, from a residential point of view. I mean, have you seen many people come in looking for that or applying for that?
I mean, there's definitely people who are interested in it and they take it, but that's all run through the CDBG program through Carrie Justman. I can definitely reach out to her to see how much interest, but I do know that it wasn't too recent ago that she emailed me saying, hey, we have a lot more available, push this out, try to get more people involved. So I think the interest is kind of petered out now that she's kind of coming to me, cold calling me for leads for that program.
And understand that program's for people that own their houses and not for people that are renting houses.
Is
Ms.
it
Daniel?
available for landlords for rental properties?
Landlords cannot apply for those loans. It has to be somebody living in the house. Yeah, the program that Austin's talking about, yeah. Now, the thing you can do is the landlord, you can sell it to your renter, and you could do it on a land contract or something if you wanted to, then they could apply for the money. That takes creativity and working with people.
Steve, and I don't even know if you would know this answer, this might be more for Ellers. I know we have the ability to extend a TIF or TID out for 1 additional year and use that captured increment for housing projects of similar issues. I mean, is that something we could use to incentivize or aid in remodeling or bring up stuff up to code?
If we had a blighted area that met the requirements under the state for a blighted area, we could. I don't know that we have, and that's kind of what you're saying, I don't think we have an area that has enough concentration of blighted homes that would qualify, or that are surrounded by deteriorating, commercial properties. But it's certainly things we can look into, and that's what Carrie's asking. I don't see any reason why we can't keep this topic open and alive and talking about it.
So, Mr. Anderson?
I read something recently about a city that's trying to deal with homelessness by encouraging old-fashioned rooming houses where people can rent out a room at a time to ordinarily single people. And going by it every day made me think, well, Cranberry Hill would be a place you could do that if somebody wanted to encourage that sort of thing in our city. They used to be everywhere, and a century ago they pretty much went out of existence.
Yeah, one of the things you have to worry about, Gerald, is the requirements in a rooming house for fire and code. It's like, it's almost impossible to take a 20th century home and convert it into a rooming house without, you might as well tear it down and build an apartment house. And the chief can comment on that.
19th century home is worse.
Well, yeah, 19th century home would be worse yet.
Yeah, they're all separate lockable doors, and egress becomes a huge issue with those rooming houses. It got to the point where the state actually had to set it aside and say, we are going to just focus on just rooming houses within the statute. So now, within the state statute, there's a specific for rooming houses, how they have to be, that we follow with ordinances and with our, with anything that we enforce. So it gets to be a lot. It's a can of worms with rooming houses.
Mr. Barnett?
So there's no, I don't know the word for it, I guess, regulations or rules, laws, whatever you want to call it, on landlords that say they have to provide a livable, decent place?
Absolutely. The tenant can file a complaint, and the landlord can say, I'm sorry, I can't afford to fix that. And that means the tenant can get out of their lease. Well, the tenant doesn't have anywhere else to go, so Tom, they just, or they try to find a program that might help them. Gary can tell you more than I can.
And Tom, most of those turn into civil issues, landlord-tenant civil issues, that we have no part to play in them.
True. Some of it, I think, is a supply and demand. I mean, you look at Roadway Inn, you look at the property behind Walmart that Planning Commission approved for more housing. The more housing you could get to build in your community, no one wants to live in those conditions. So when you add more housing stock, people tend to move up and move into that. And then your blighted property, they either have to reinvest or they get out of the game based on if no one wants your product, you go bankrupt pretty quick. So, but it's a trickle issue, and it's also an issue that we can't find enough housing builders to really solve the needle for the bottom 10%. So that's the tricky part, and it's a statewide problem. Ms. Daniel?
I'm going to direct this to Ms. Mikulowski, if that's all right.
Sure.
And actually, you as well. Do we think these roadway apartments are going to meet Section 8 housing requirements? Do you know what it is that generally doesn't pass the inspection? Is there something specific in the rules?
They do have a lot of rules, but if they're up to code, then they're gonna pass, basically.
Oh, okay.
So they'd have to be up to code in order for them to be rented out, so.
So I can't speak to like square footage, those kind of requirements, but from a structure quality, pretty much with the extent of the remodel, for it to be occupiable, they would have to bring up the current code. I know some of the issues Rhinelander has is like no knob and tube wiring, and you look at probably a third of our housing stock has a form of knob and tube somewhere. I think circuit breakers are another one. There's a lot of stuff that 100 years ago doesn't count anymore for today's age for that program. Yeah, I think those are probably the two biggest ones I have seen, was the wiring issues and, ish. Plumbing, from your point of view of functioning plumbing, yes, but not enough bathrooms, not enough that. It's more the electrical up to code, I think, and just peeling paint might be another big one, I think, from exterior side. And it's funny because it trickles off of, well, not really funny, but it connects because your VA loans, your FHA loans, as well as your rental programs all kind of follow the same criteria. So it's not only hurting people from a renting point of view, it's hurting people from a potentially buying a property point of view in the same respects. So,
You mean wiring wrapped in cloth is not good?
not if the inspector sees it, apparently.
Oh. I don't, by the way, I'm just,
So, okay, well, if there's nothing else, I'll move on to the next one, which is 11O. Discuss and/or action mobile home park permit, and this was brought by Mr. Anderson, Mr. Holt. Every year we approve a mobile home park permit, and I'm guessing we wanted to tweak that a little bit. So I don't know if Mr. Anderson, if you want to speak to it first, or?
Well, I can't speak for Mr. Holt exactly, but I think most of us were concerned with the fact that we approve these licenses every year, 1st of July, and the ordinance authorizes us to not approve it or even revoke a license, but really gives no criteria for how we would make that judgment. And I think what we're looking for is here at a time when we're 6 months away from having to make that decision, are there things we need to be adding to our code to spell out what the criteria would be? The people who own these places have a right to know that, certainly, and if there's a danger of non-renewal, it shouldn't catch them by surprise either.
True.
But I don't see that we have anything at this point other than maybe the general property code.
True. I would turn it over to you first, Brian. I mean, I know we have 4 trailer parks in town. One is owned, 3 of them are owned by one, and one's Edgewater. Edgewater, I believe, from a compliance issue, there's really nothing there. The other 3, I know they've been trying to improve, and they've been bringing in some new models and doing upgrades, but it's still far from ideal.
Yeah, so Evergreen has been bringing in, they brought in 4 new trailers. They did some new pads out there. Woodland Heights has brought in 5 new trailers, but they're HUD units from down south that have been used and utilized. They look better than what's in there now. They're not brand new. We haven't gotten into them yet because they haven't been set. We're kind of working with them right now to actually get them set on the right padding with the right footings in there, above the frost line or below the frost line. And we're kind of going back and forth with them to make sure that this stuff is put in properly to begin with. I think from speaking with Ryan Berghammer today, one of our concerns is more or less not the homes that are there, but what happens to those trailers once they're there and they're settled for a while. The additions on them, the building, the lean-tos and all the extra structures and the roofs on top of the roofs. Some of the roofs that are put on top of some of these mobile homes are not per manufacturer recommendations or standards. So that creates some safety issues for us when we do have fires or any kind of issues or incidents within these properties. So I think along those lines would be something that we would want to work with the property management company as far as with their covenants and stuff. And like I stated before, their covenants are more stringent than our ordinances are. It's just us holding their feet to the fire on those and having them continue to enforce those. So for us, from an ordinance standpoint, for setting out exactly what we're looking for when you approve or disapprove the licenses, I guess we can start coming up with, what we would like to meet, but we're kind of more looking for direction from you guys on what exactly does that entail. Does it entail the structure, how the property's kept, what the land is owned by the management company. The people who own the trailers own only the trailer. So that's one thing to keep in mind is in those trailer parks, that's how it works for them. So it's really, we're just kind of looking for your direction. Whatever direction you want us to take is the way we'll look at going with it.
Mr. Jopek?
I think when it was brought up last time, the thing that I was concerned about is kind of like what you were talking about, is what happens once they're set and they're in there, and what do we do? And it kind of comes back to the property maintenance thing about making sure that they're livable, those kind of things. And again, we might not have any ability to do anything. I think what piqued my interest about it was the approval of a contract to a company. Do we have, and probably my question was something along the lines of, do we have any leeway in basically saying, hey, what is our process for making sure that these houses stay safe for fire purposes, they stay livable, those sorts of things. Because if we're going to approve that, and that might not be the style of contract it is. So I think that was my big question when this was brought up several months ago.
Just remember that the license is to operate the trailer park. The condition of the trailer is up to the homeowner. So those are two different people. So we can't tell the person that owns the trailer park, you got to make sure that the trailer inside is healthy, because the person that owns the trailer, that's their responsibility. And I can assure you that trailer park owners love the city to come in and condemn those and tell them to get them out of there, because the trailer park owners would like to get most of those out of there, because they like to bring in new trailers all the time, because that keeps their trailer park, they can increase the rent. And so, I mean, over the years I've represented trailer park owners, and they love cities to come in and make you get those bad trailers out of there and take on the owners of the trailers, because they don't want to be the bad guys. In a lot of cases, they want the city or the county to be the bad guys, because they're going to get paid regardless. And usually the people that don't take care of the trailers are the ones that don't pay their rent too. So, and that's the other problem you run, or don't pay their personal property taxes. Trailer parks are not nearly the problem that rental properties are. I mean, I'll tell you that from my experience.
So, and this might be for Brian or yourself. So I know, like, if you're doing an addition or remodeling on your house, you pull a permit, and that follows the property owner. How does that work with a mobile home court? Is that something that they're pulling and it follows the property still, or is it just following them because it's similar to a car?
The person that puts an addition on the trailer has to do it in accordance with the regulations of the trailer park, and then, of course, it would have to be built to city code. And most of them don't bother pulling permits from either the trailer park or the city. They just do it. And then, I mean, that's the answer to your question.
So the point I'm trying to get to is, could we have a policy that would then hold the trailer park responsible for lack of pulling permits on the structures?
No.
So you couldn't go that way to bring better compliance?
No, no. And again, they would love you to do that and be the cop, because it's really their responsibility, but we can't hold them financially responsible. It's the trailer park unit, the trailer owner that put that thing on there. And they would like you to come and tell them to tear it off.
So then would that, because usually if you don't pay your permit, you get a fine put onto your property taxes. Right? So like if you don't pull your permit, it gets an assessment, right, usually?
Yeah, we could assess the personal property taxes of the trailer owner, but generally,
There's nothing there.
that's nothing there to,
True, yeah.
it's not like, going after a homeowner who's got land that has value. There's not very value to these trailers. I mean, after, 5, 10 years, good luck. I mean.
True. Ms. Mikulowski?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that most of the tenants that are in the Woodland Heights Terrace Estate and Manor are very low-income individuals. So I think you could put fees on them all you want, but they don't have the money to pay them anyways. So it's kind of like, we're in a tough spot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, they're not safe, and I think that the inspection department's doing a really good job of getting the really bad ones cleaned up and tore down and stuff. And I think just continuing that program alone is going to make things a whole lot better than what it had been. Some of those trailers are older than I am, to be honest. I mean, they're old.
Some
I'm
are
old.
older than Steve.
You'd be surprised. I know.
Mr. Jopek?
And this might be already answered, I suppose, but I guess the idea of accepting a license or approving a license for an operator of the trailer park, I guess in my head, and of course this might not apply legally, but just to open up some kind of agreement and some kind of partnership where we're preemptively stopping such additions that shouldn't be done, or at least making sure they're done up to code and those kind of things. Like Steve said, there's they don't want to be the bad guy. They're not trying to do those things, but at the same time, like, this is something that city council's having to address. And so if we're going to approve this license, I guess yearly, and I mean, granted, then it opens up the door of, like, if we don't approve it, what happens? But if we're going to approve this yearly, what's, like, they need to be accountable to something. And that's not even like fees or anything, but it's just like joining us in a partnership to make sure that it is maintained, and any construction or anything like that is done with accordance to the ordinance, instead of saying, well, you guys be the bad guys. You guys come in and you inspect it and you tear it down. I just feel like we're the ones just signing the license. We're just saying, hey, it's all good, and then it's turning around.
Just understand that they can't go onto a person's private trailer and rip off something that's been built.
Yeah.
They
Right.
can't do that.
Right, and I'm not saying
Only
that.
the city could.
Right, and that's what I'm saying is some level of communication needs to happen beyond just a yearly license approval, where, and this might be happening now, I'm not sure, where we just make sure that whoever's operating that trailer park is communicating with the city so that these problems do not grow out of hand, and then we end up in this situation where there's all of these buildings that are unsafe, unhealthy, those sorts of things. That way it's more preemptive. I just feel like right now we're just kicking it down the road. We're signing off on the license and saying, hey, that's all good, without actually adjusting anything and stopping what's allowed this to happen in the first place. But hopefully, again, the inspections program will improve
I can tell you, Steve, it's a lot better than it was when I started 4 years ago. I mean, with the new management, they're working with the city. They'll do whatever because they would like to have nicer trailers, because they would like to raise their rent, and they'd like to have nicer trailer homes, because they're a company that's what they're in the business to. It's not like some of our landlords that could care less. These guys care, but they also don't want to put people on the street that have nowhere else to go. That's the other thing it's a two-edged sword, and unless we're going to start building public housing, and you got to have some place for these people to go, and the trailer may not be the best thing in the world, but it's shelter.
Have you seen in your travels where, let's say, a TIF or TID was made and adjacent to a mobile home park similar to ours, they would build like a low-income housing apartment complex and try to shift people into that facility?
Right now, the city of Sheboygan and the city of Oshkosh have built tiny home parks. And that's their attempt to replace the old-fashioned trailer park. And actually, the cost, I just talked to a trailer park owner, the cost of a tiny house right now is less than the new trailers because of the new requirements on the new trailers. I mean, they're really stringent on the new, most of them are double wides now or extended trailers. So yes, that was all sponsored by the governor's workforce development housing project, and there's money for that. And those tiny houses are renting for $700-800 a unit. But there's no garages, there's no roads. I mean, you park in a parking lot and you walk to your tiny house. But that's what they're doing.
Ms. Mikulowski?
Yeah, and the other thing is that, I mean, a lot of these, I don't know how to explain this. There's something to be said about having your own dwelling versus an apartment building, and the pride that kind of comes with that, even though it might be a lower quality, it's still theirs. And they can do what they want with it. When it's an apartment, there's a lot more rules for the tenant. And so there's something to be said about that too, of, to say to like get rid of them and then just do apartments. Not everybody wants to live in an apartment. And to be honest, not everybody is capable of living in an apartment based on background history and stuff like that. They're just not eligible to live in a multi-unit complex.
Mr. Anderson?
That still, I guess, leaves the question, under the conditions we've been talking about and the ordinance that we have, is there any legal standing for us to revoke or not renew a license?
No, there isn't. I mean, these people are doing everything. I have not seen a violation, and I don't think you've seen one, by the trailer park management companies.
Ms. Daniel?
And then I ask, what is the purpose of the permitting?
Gives us control over things like roadways and sewer and water installations, the things that are owned by the park and not owned by the individual lot owner. It allows us to create the distance between the units so there's enough room for fire to get in and out. There's a lot of things we gain by permitting them and making them live up to our rules.
Will we do this every year? They go through the permitting process? Mm-hmm. Can we streamline it? I mean, would it be a bad thing to go to every 2 years, every 3 years, if it's the same owner, unless there's an ownership change?
Yeah, you could change the permit to make it a longer period of time, but that would certainly lead to complacency. It's kind of nice, especially with the sewer systems and the electrical systems. It's nice that we can go in every year and say, unit 6 over here, their pipe going to, there's things that we can control that are very good.
Okay, just trying to save the city some money.
I was going to say, the company that was there before, the current management company, I know that Terry was out there all the time, and we just got a much better management company now.
Yep. Mr. Barnett?
Mr. Jopek raised a question a little earlier about something like a communication between you and the management company. I get what you were saying, like have them basically be a, hey, this guy's building on here, I don't think it's safe. Is that going on, or?
Not really. Most of the structures that we've seen are pre this administration. I can't name anything off the top of my head that I've seen that we haven't caught on our own with our own inspection program. or permitting processes. So for the most part, we've had a pretty good working relationship with them. And when we came up for the license this year, I stood up here and said, you know, we're working well with them, they're working well with us. We were having no issues, and I stand by that today. We still are having no issues with them. We're still working well with them. There's a very good open line of communication with them, and I think that's the most important piece here is that we keep that open line of communication and that we continue to work together in these properties.
Mr. Jopek?
I think my final comment on this is that I'm glad that we have that's working out. I just want to make sure that as long as we're not bothering them, then that positive relationship will exist. And so making sure that we're not, and I guess maybe this was my entire point, is that every year when we do visit this license, that we make sure that that relationship is functioning, that there is communication between those, and when there is an issue, it's being resolved instead of, radio silence on one end to where we're not actually being able to utilize the abilities that we do have with roadways, those kind of things, or being summoned as a city to officiate over ordinances. And so I guess just making sure that we are aware of it, we don't just skimp over it when that comes up on the agenda, and making sure that we're doing our due diligence. I think I'm glad to hear that it's a positive relationship.
I'm not seeing any other discussion. I move on to the next item, which is 11P, which I would request we table to our next meeting due to Patrick did all the research on this and he's not present.
Daniel, make a motion to table item P
Correct.
under introduction of new business until the next meeting in January.
Jopek, second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, abstain. Table is approved. Moving on to 12, which is monthly reports from departments.
I'll make a motion to accept all the monthly reports as submitted by department heads.
Is there a second?
Mikulowski, second.
Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Barnett?
I guess how are things going with the golf course? The commission or whatever they call it?
I know they met twice, but I'm not on that committee, so that would be another Patrick
You have to wait
thing.
till Patrick.
Yeah.
Patrick said he had a good meeting. That's all he told me.
Okay.
So, okay.
They are meeting. That's important. Shouldn't die.
Is that something that we could, and we'll talk to Patrick about it, but just making sure that that's part of the report, if that's something he's heading up, so that we can see that, that'd be nice.
Okay, yeah,
We'll make
because
sure
he
it
has,
gets on a report, yeah.
Yep. Okay, okay, we had a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those who abstain or vote against, none. Motion passes. 13, there's nothing to communicate at this point. Future agenda items, anything anyone like to add? So we are trying to clean this up before this body's term is up, which is April, just for then the new body doesn't have this existing, thing. Our next regular council meeting is January 6th, 2024 at January 8th at 2024 at 6 p.m. It is 7:23, meeting adjourned.